Hey there, Impact Zone fam! How's it going today? We're back here to talk more Impact Wrestling TNA shenanigans. Well, crazy stuff happened this week, honestly. I was 100%, 1,000%, 1,000,000% not expecting what happened tonight. Because, I don't even think we even talked about it. Because I was like, is there anything to talk about? You know what I mean? But, well, obviously there was something to talk about in some senses. But I honestly feel like this is not a step in the wrong direction per se. But it's a step in the direction of, oh, well, we know where this leads sort of thing, kind of, I guess. But it does beg the question, when and where or whatever. Not so much where, maybe so much, because we could estimate where at least to some extent. But I should at least mention what I'm talking about if you guys haven't already guessed what I'm talking about. But Lei Ying Lee has won the Knockouts World Championship. And honestly, I feel like it was pretty underwhelming, honestly, as far as this goes. And I was even saying the other week, or I don't think I said it on the podcast, but I was saying it to someone or something else, or I was thinking about it at least, that they haven't really done a great job with Lei building her back up and trying to get her this title match that she was going to have in some ways, because she didn't beat anyone. She didn't do anything to really earn this. It's just Santino favoritism, or whatever, or whatnot, whatever you want to call it, by saying, Santino wasn't favoring his daughter or whatever, anti-favoritism, I guess, I don't know. But honestly, like I said before, and I can't remember when I said it, there are so many heels on the roster, especially female wrestling heels, on the roster, that it's you need to give them something to work with. And it's tough because it's we've got all these, we don't have many great baby faces to work with. So maybe we'll have some soon, who knows? But we do, it's not like we have none, but they are mostly in other positions for the most part. So yeah, it does make that situation where it's Lei now has the title. Well, we have a whole bunch of heels for her to go up against. I mean, still, I'm sure she's got to have a rematch with Ariana Grace, maybe at some point, maybe, because I will say as well, the Ariana Grace title run, I was hopeful for it. I was a lot annoyed, and I probably have voiced that a few times here on the podcast. I liked the idea of it because I was okay, we actually have something that actually has a reason to be here, rather than, and it's actually been here for more than a hot minute. I don't want to see these things, come in and disappear within a hot minute. I want to see a good 4 or 5, 6 months at least, something like that, worth of something, so that I can be okay, who's being built up? Who's gonna be the champion? Let's see who's gonna get there, or whatever. Who are the fans gonna pick, or whatever else it is, that sort of thing, or who's management gonna pick, and that sort of thing. I honestly don't think that this was the best decision in some ways, but the thing is, this isn't about this specific decision, I guess. It's more about the decisions that are going to come later in terms of this. So I will give them a bit of a pass on that, as long as we don't just turn around and we don't just be okay, we obviously kind of know where this is going, kind of thing, and then we just do it at Slammiversary, because that's not very far away, only a couple of months and whatnot. So again, saying, hey, even this title reign, as I was sort of saying, was fairly short. And I know some people were sick of it, but it's like, yeah, I can be sick of it, but I want to see more, or I want to see like them actually, actively being like, okay, let's figure out who's next, what's next, who's hot, who's not, what not, and all of that. I would rather have seen like things continue, and maybe Indy Hart will get a chance, or maybe somebody else get a chance, or whatever else it was. Because I was like, again, didn't even talk about, because I had written a lay off and thought they're not going back to her. And like, even if they were going to go back to her, they're not going to go back to her now. I thought, well, maybe they'll do a triple threat, maybe. But then that's like a little bit, I don't know, too late-ish. I don't know. You could sort of make that argument. But yeah, like, it is pretty unfortunate in some ways, because it's like, well, like, to me, like, again, like, you would not do this at Slam. Well, maybe you would, but like, if you're gonna do it at Slammiversary, then I feel like, you know what I mean? You're gonna have to then go backwards again and kind of do something big for Bound for Glory. I mean, you could do something big between Lay and Xia at Bound for Glory, I guess, with Xia having the belt. I don't know. Or against Indy, or against, I don't know, there's not that many other great, like, singles baby faces that much, really. There's a bunch of, like I said, really big heels, but maybe, like, some of the, WWE releases would be in that space. But then I'm on the same fence of saying, well, I really kind of don't want to see them just put it on a WWE guy for the millionth time, especially since it's like, here we are putting this belt on all these, people that are currently with WWE. And again, like, yes, it is like us bringing in somebody and they're our person now, but, and it's like, it's a really hard thing to do. It's really hard to balance things out and say, what are we going to do with this person when they get here? Because if you don't have something for them to come in and do almost instantly, it's like, well, what are we doing with them? Why do we even hire them if we're not going to do anything with them? Versus, well, if you're going to put the belt on them, well, why? Because, like, again, you're just like, well, we couldn't think of anyone else, and this is WWE light, effectively, or we're just mooching off the WWE success of this person. We don't want to just mooch off the WWE success of somebody. We want somebody that's going to come in, and somebody that's going to be a part of the roster, and somebody that is like, hey, no, they've been here and we know them, and the fans of, feel like, oh no, we feel like, hey, they're one of our guys and they're definitely here for us, and we're not just like trying to lurch off their, like, obviously that happens to some extent, but again, that's not just the primary or only well, I know it's not the primary or only reason, but sometimes it does feel like the primary or only reason why somebody sometimes gets either an opportunity in general or just gets the title. So it's hard to capitalize on somebody, because it's like, you're doomed if you do, and you're doomed if you don't, kind of thing. If you capitalize on them, everyone complains of saying, hey, you should be making your own guys, or whatever else it is. But if you don't do something with them, everyone complains and says, hey, why didn't you do this with that person, or whatever, so you can't win any time. And again, obviously, as I say, like, unfortunately, I think AEW is going to be the primary location for a lot of these releases, because Tony's got a lot of money, and we all know that Tony can't help himself and basically is just making WWE light at this point. So he should really get a whole lot more flack for that, but he doesn't, obviously, because everyone likes to kneel down in front of Tony and open up and suck. So, that's where things are at. Like, I don't want to just badmouth him or anything like that, but I want to just make that point of saying, well, people really give them a a bit of a pass sometimes on some of this stuff, but what have you, it is what it is. But anyway, even Lay, I would argue that she's a WWE, entity in many ways. Is she really a TNA entity? She's been there for a little while now, but and now she's 2-time Knockouts champion. And I don't even think she was worth being Knockouts champion once. Now she had somewhat of a story, at least kind of going into this, but it wasn't that big. And again, maybe it's just because it's on TV or whatever else it was, and probably, I can't remember when these tapings happened, but they happened a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, maybe it's that or whatever. But again, like I said, before, it's wow, you can do these great things on TV, and it is a great thing, and it is a feel-good thing for some people and whatnot, but not really for me, because as I said, you didn't really do enough for me to really be yeah, cool, Lay, woohoo, congrats, or whatever. In a professional sense, absolutely. Take your stuff whenever you can get it, but, the story that you told and the stuff that you actually did to get to that point, you didn't really do enough for me to be yeah, you worked that story, you worked that angle, you showed off why she should be, the champion, or why she deserved it, and then she went on and bloody well did it, in a sense, she proved herself here, in a sense, winning the belt back. But it obviously, in another sense, it's well, how long is it gonna last? Is it gonna last to Slammiversary? I don't know. Obviously, you could do, as I said, you could do something then, but that feels awfully short as well. So I don't think Lockdown even makes a whole lot of sense. Even that does feel fairly short. Not impossibly short, but does feel fairly short for the most part. For a title reign. So I would say Bound for Glory is the earliest time, because at least that's what? That's in October. So the 8th month. We're now in only the 5th month, I believe. Or is it? No, it is in October, I'm pretty sure. Because usually in October. So it's only 3 months away. Or whatever, really. Which, May, June, July, August, October, 4 or 5 months, something like that. Yeah, so, but still, it does feel, it is what am I saying? No, October, it's in October. I'm just confusing myself. I don't know what I'm talking about there with when it is, whatever. I'm just confused. Whatever. But still, even 4 months, 4 or 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is, isn't really that long. So I would say that is your window. But then it's well, if Xia wins it, then it does feel why? You know what I mean? It feels well, why would she win it at that point? You know what I mean? Because, again, normally if you're thinking about things, you're thinking about, okay, cool, we want our big baby face or whatever else it is to go over. Maybe, obviously, you can have that whole, well, she wins the title with the briefcase or the call your shot or whatever else. So you could obviously be doing that, but again, at a certain point, it is one of those things that, it's a bit overplayed in a sense. So I would rather, we not do that, or I would rather we just, what would I say, kind of slow, I don't know whether slow down or whatever. But it's tough because it's if you're not going to do it on pay-per-view, and that's what's tough here as well. It's you didn't do this on pay-per-view. if this was on pay-per-view, maybe like people would be a bit more critical of the match because the match wasn't all that good, honestly, and whatnot. But at least like then you have like months and months and months of build, and you kind of feel like something special is going to happen, sort of thing. And you would have had more time to tell the story or whatever else it is. So that would have, in my opinion, been better. But then again, it's like, well, I will go back to criticizing WWE as well in this relationship as well, because like maybe it has something to do with WWE. I don't want to just blame WWE for everything, but Jesus Christ. There's so many goddamn reasons why, especially now, we should be saying, you know, this has got to be it. This next up to Bound for Glory, that has to be it. Maybe we'll work together here or there. That's it. But beyond that, like if you call us and say, hey, we want to work together, can you send us this person? Well, what are we getting in return? Literally, what are we getting in return? Besides a few views on your channel or whatever. We're not getting that. That doesn't help us. Maybe it exposes our guy to your audience or whatever else, but we've seen that not many of them are tuning into TNA very much, so they're choosing to stick with what they already watch. So it's not really helping us. So, yeah, again, are you going to send somebody over to us? Well, yeah, maybe, but we're only going to send somebody that we don't really care about, or somebody that we don't really have plans for and isn't that major, and da-da-da-da. And yet here you are asking for one of our most major people. Nah, bro. Come on. You're trading off one of our most major superstars for one of their jobbers, effectively. Or one of their guys that are just there and don't give a rat's about. So yeah, I just don't like that. I don't think that it's very fair, and I think, like, again, WWE is, and a lot of WWE fans, or more apologists, or whatever you want to call it, WWE marks or whatever, try to rationale it by kind of like trying to wipe away how important or how big or whatever else, TNA star power is or whatnot, and that sort of thing. So I don't really agree with a lot of that. I think it's a lot of shit, to be honest. But yeah, we've already talked a bit about that in the past here and there. But again, I do feel like if you're in TNA's position, you kind of have to play ball sometimes. Obviously, that's fine, but like they've had 2 years. They've had 2 years, dude. And if in those 2 years you haven't really gotten very much out of WWE, even the scraps of them being like, yeah, we're not really using any of these guys and we don't really care about any of these guys, so we'll send them over to you, even if they're on the main roster or whatever else it is, even if it's for one night only or something like that. Yeah, sure, okay, we'll do that. But like beyond that, they haven't just done anything like that. Or say, hey, more of like, okay, let's bring in the Hardys and let's, utilize them, and let's, have them in a tag team match, or we'll send over one of our tag teams over to you, or something like that for a night or for a month or two or whatever else it is, and then they're going to have a match against the Hardys or somebody else or whatever else, the System, whoever, whatever. So again, like, they just haven't done that, and they haven't really cared about their own tag division. Like, but yeah, they can't spare anyone to be like, let's do this fun thing. Let's have a match. Let's have this. Let's have that. Whatever. So like there is a lot of like back and forth about like some of these things. Maybe it's some of the talent too or whatever. But again, like, if the talent are like, man, why am I going back there? Or why am I going to do that? or whatnot. Just have to realize, man, this is a different company than the one you left. It's not the same company as the one you left like all those years ago or whatever. It's a completely different company. It's run by different people. And is it better? Is it worse? Yes, there's probably things that are better. Yes, there's probably things that are worse. So, the more things change, the more they stay the same, so to speak. And whatnot. So again, there's a lot of that where it's like, I don't know, and I do think, like, again, if you don't want to be here, if you don't want to be here, really don't want to be here, or you don't want to be involved, even if you respect some of the people, if you don't want to be here, don't fucking come. Like, it's as simple as that. And maybe it's like, oh yeah, maybe for the fans. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. It's more about the fans. It shouldn't be about you, So saying, hey, we're going to go and do this stuff in TNA or whatever, yeah, that's not for you. That's for the fans. Doesn't matter if you, like, had heat with the company all those years ago. The same people aren't even in the company anymore for the most part. Maybe some of them are, but again, it's a completely different management than what it was even just a few years ago. So again, and just saying, oh, we're going to turn that down just because, whatever, is just stupid. You should be saying, oh, okay, cool. Let's figure this out and let's go and let's, do this stuff, and then we'll see how it goes. And like, if we don't do any more than that, hey, that's fine. It's whatever. If we decide, oh no, this is different and they are treating us better or whatever, hey, well, maybe we'll do more together. Again, this isn't just about you, it's about the fans. But yeah, like, again, unfortunately, and I don't know whether this was under WWE's like direction, but I have to assume that it was, that they have done the same story effectively, especially in the Knockouts division, 3 times in a row, effectively. So, no one, and again, that's another thing to say about why the fans are sick of this whole thing going on. And it is like, well, I can understand that. It's like, dude, friggin' well, seeing some of this stuff happening and whatnot, it is cool to see sometimes, to see like whoever coming in to do something or whatever, even if it's like probably for one night only or whatever else it is, because 9 times out of 10 that's what it is. And as I've said, like, most of the, like, on average, the people that have come from WWE to TNA have only, like, at most been there a month. Like, Trick was like a fair outlier, and Ariana has been a fair outlier, and Stax has kind of become a fair outlier now. But, like, everyone else has been either one night, maybe 2 nights, whatever else it is, or maybe a month at most, like, beyond that. So it's like, but yet here you are being like, Mike Santana's over there again, Mike Santana's over there again, here he is again, la la la, whatever else it is. And that was, I know mainly that was during the Trick Williams thing and whatnot, but he's still gone there afterwards and done stuff and whatnot. And I know the wrestlers have a lot of respect for the other wrestlers and whatnot, so they are more than happy. I'm not blaming the wrestlers. I'm blaming, the management and whatnot, of saying, hey, we have no real plans, or whatever plans we did have, well, we'll just toss them out the window because we don't really care. And we now need this person for that. And then you turn around and go, oh, no, we don't. Or whatever. It's like, dude, make up your bloody mind. Are you going to do something with this person? Because that's the only reason why you said, hey, we want or need this person. So, hey, send them back to our way or whatever. We're sorry, we shouldn't have let them be over there in the first. Well, you should know whether you're actually going to make that commitment or not. And sometimes, again, it's like, well, they suddenly realized when they're in TNA, because TNA actually gets, people to go out there and work, how good some of these people are. Because they go, oh, shit, we forget how good these people are because we were too busy over here trying to bury them all the frickin' time or whatever. and things like that. Or just trying to make them do it the way we wanted them to do it, instead of like letting them like dictate their own match or dictate their own promo or whatever else it is. And again, it's crazy how they always say go out there and get over, but don't go out there and get over kind of thing. You know, they tell them don't do this and don't do that and don't do everything that gets you over and that sort of thing. So it's like, I'm getting mixed messages here, bro, you know, and things like that. But still, it doesn't really compel me, this whole situation, you know, because like I think again, like I said, you're in an awkward position and maybe you can get yourself out of that. I don't know, but again, like I don't know. And it is good like if Xia gets the belt, because it's like, oh, that's cool, that's different. But then what are you going to do from there? You know what I mean? You still don't have enough great singles baby faces. And again, maybe you'll get a couple of like these ex-WWE people coming in, but you don't want to just be like, yes, let's push the ex-WWE people or whatever. We want to be like, yeah, they're here and they're important and they are a part of the roster and they can be, you know, utilized and help put other people over. Because again, like maybe Cora or maybe some of the other people could become the champion, some of them from WWE. And that's another one where it's like Ash by Elegance, she was the champion for a short period of time. But I don't think many people like really remember that she was in WWE, and she was like there for a long ass time. I even think most people forget that Cora was in WWE. I mean, they do remember, but they know that she did sweet fuck all basically over there in WWE, and WWE basically didn't really give a rat's ass about her. And there was a lot of accusations of like body shaming and shit like that going on, and all of that sort of stuff. So again, not only, you know, all the corporate like shenanigans like that they do with Chelsea Green was going on, but a lot of like you're too fat whatever stuff was going on, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous in my opinion. But yeah, no, I really think that, you know, if you're gonna do something, like again, I would rather us focus in on our own homegrown talent. If you're going to give somebody like Cora or Ash the title again, you've got to say, okay, cool. But that has to lead to one of our own and one of like the crowd's own kind of like getting that dub back. You know, that has to lead to somebody new that we've got here, you know, overcoming the odds. I would say, like, again, like you're looking at Allie and Rosemary as far as tag team right now. So you're not really looking at them, or even maybe a trio, I don't know, whatever. But you're not really looking at them like an individualistic perspective. You're looking at them saying this is what they're going to do, and it is perfectly fine, because again, you need more tag teams, and especially female tag teams, and you haven't had any really good female tag teams for ages. Even though you've got one other like female tag team, you haven't really featured them or haven't really done anything with them for the most part. And like those titles are the bottom of the barrel. Like even like the international title that I clown on here and there is like, at least like sometimes you do stuff with it, and at least there are contenders for it and whatnot. But yeah, for the most part, really not. So I would be saying like, let's figure out like beyond the people that are already on our roster. Maybe Jada Stone, actually, or Myla Grace or Harley Hudson. Those would be... Actually, Jada's already more of a singles act, I would say, so you're already, looking at her more so. Maybe Jodie Threat, I don't know, but like the only way I see you really doing anything with Jodie is it just isn't there anymore. Like the time that you would have been able to do something with her was only when she had a story with Danny. Maybe she could have a story with, like, I don't know, like these new, like, Mila Grace, Mila Moore, or whatever, that sort of thing. Well, I would say if they break up, but we'll say when they break up, because that's what you do a lot of the time. So this is much further down the line, honestly. Obviously, Mara Sade, but, like, there is that, like, asterisk always sort of there in some sense. I kind of like Mila more, but I think she's such a good heel, so I feel like she's not going to get a turn with it for a long period of time, at least. Who else? I don't know. Yeah, that's about it, isn't it? So that's what I mean. Like, the pickings are very slim in terms of, like, who's next, besides, like, Indy Hartwell and the people that you've already kind of, like, put in that position sort of thing. So I would be saying, hey, you know, if we're going to pick up anyone from beyond, like, maybe picking up Kairi Sane for one big match or something like that, let's pick up some of the lesser known talent. You know, let's not pick up some of the bigger talent, because we probably, like, even if we tried to, we probably couldn't. And even if we really tried to, we probably couldn't afford them very easily. So again, let's focus in on some of the younger talent that we actually think, hey, they could do something, or even just focus more on some of the talent that we already do have, because even now, like, a lot of the talent that you do have aren't getting the time of day on the screen, and you need to give, like, Mila Moore and, I say Mila Moore, but you need to give, like, these girls a whole lot more time, you know, and maybe, like, you'll do that next week or whatever else it will be or whatnot, or maybe the week after, I don't know, but again, you can't just leave them out. You know, you can't just focus on the sausage party, so to speak, of just the guys division. And sometimes I do that too, where I'm, like, always talking about the guys division pretty much. But again, like, it's like, well, what do I have to talk about? You know what I mean? I have nothing to talk about because there's hardly anyone there, and there's been hardly anyone there for ages. So all I can say is there's hardly anyone there. But yet the people that you do have at least have some potential, at least. So, but still, I don't know. You're like, where are we going with them? Who's, like, once Zaya wins it, which I'm 100% sure she will at some point. When, I don't know. But, like, where are we going from there? We can't just go back to Lay again. You know, we need somebody new. We need something different. We need to go in a new direction. We can't just rely on these ex-WWE people and whatnot again. So even if they're actually on our roster, because Lay has been there for been around for a long time and whatnot. So again, yes, she's good, she's talented, whatever, but we need the next generation. You know, who's the next generation? And, like, it's fine to have a whole bunch of people on your roster who are kind of emerging, but it's like, are they really? Like, Indy Hartwell's one of the only people that's gotten significant TV time of late, that's a singles, like, wrestler that's a babyface or whatever. So I would say you're probably investing the most in her, and it seems like I don't know whether you're favoritizing her in some ways, but obviously she's a merch seller or a merch pusher or whatever else it is. So obviously it must be based on something. But you've got to have your B babyface. You've got to have your C babyface. You've got to have your D babyface, if you know what I mean. You've got to have your number 1, your number 2, your number 3, your number 4. And sometimes your number 3 or number 4 now have to become your number one or number two suddenly. You know, like you've got to do those things where it's like suddenly somebody jumps up and leaps up and becomes the next person. So I just would wonder who that would be, and I don't know. Beyond Indy, you really haven't been like focusing in on anyone, and you haven't really given anyone else any significant time, so I would say that it's her. But you can't make it too obvious. You've got to be like, okay, we've got to be like making it look like there's other people in this division besides just Indy, and we've got to give Indy other things to do besides just win the title in a few weeks' time or whatever. That's not going to work. She's got to win it at a, you know, specific time and in a specific place and in a specific way and for specific reasons, not just because we decided to do it. You know, maybe if you have Genesis in England or if you have Genesis in Australia or something like that, you could do it early next year. Beyond that, you'd have to say, okay, well, then we've got to wait for Rebellion, or then we've got to wait for Slammiversary, or whatever other big pay-per-view we're going to have, or Bound for Glory that next year. So, like, again, I would say it would have to be in Australia, or have to at least be thought about being in Australia, maybe. And again, like, I think doing more out of the country tours is just good, no matter what the other situations are. And the other situations should be making you go, Jesus Christ, let's get the fuck out of here, for fuck's sake. Let's go other places, because my God, the US is in a absolute shambles right now. And maybe it's a little bit better on the inside and worse looking in from the outside. But still, my God, if you were looking at what was going on, you'd be like, dude, let's get the fuck out of here and do something else. Let's be in Canada, let's be in Mexico, or whatever. Let's be close to America, but let's not be in the US. Let's just do other things. You know, let's go to Europe. You know, just avoid the competition from WWE, avoid the competition from AEW. Be in other places, be in other markets that aren't so saturated and aren't so, I don't know whether gluttonous is the word, but so overserved. I mean, like, if you haven't been somewhere and like AEW or WWE hasn't been there in a long time, then maybe think about going there. But beyond that, I would say let's stick to being elsewhere. Again and again, I will keep saying this because, again, even despite the political climate or anything else, it's still a good idea, I would say. So for everything that I've said, I hope for the best, because, like, unfortunately, like you say, it's pretty predictable where this is going in many ways now. Like I said, the only real questions become when and where. And like I said, it's really tough because you've got to think, what are we doing for Slammiversary? Well, if we do this at Slammiversary, it's not a big letdown in some ways, but it is a big letdown. And especially with the length of the title reign. It's like, wow, cool. She had a couple of month title reign on top of the last one, which was only a couple of months as well. You know, so that's really shitty. I mean, like, then at least at Lockdown, you have a big reason or whatever else it is for them to be having like a crazy cage match or whatever else it is. At least there is some reason and some heat there to go into that. I mean, like, obviously you could have Xia win it in the cage or whatever else it is, but usually you have, like, the heel getting beat up in the cage, which, I don't know, like, by that point, it's like, it doesn't make any sense, because it's like, well, Xia's just won this thing, and now we want her to go to Bound for Glory and face off against whomever or whatever at that point. So again, hey, you know, why would we take the belt off of her to put it back on Lei? You know, like, just hot potatoing for, you know, just whatever. I don't know, like, again, like, there still could be, like, that potential of a triple threat, obviously, but still, like, I would say that it is much more important and much more like, there's much more story in saying this is our person, or this is the person the fans have picked and whatnot. We want the fans to feel like this was our choice. We don't want the fans to feel like, oh, well, this is the only person that's, TNA is actually giving some time to. We want everyone to feel like, oh man, I really like Indy, or I really like this person, or I really like that person, or whatever else it is. We don't want people to feel like alienated from the decisions that we make. We want to make people feel like, oh no, we were behind that. We were like in that person's corner and they listened to us, So we don't want to overexpose anyone, or make anyone feel like they're less than. We want to make people feel like, no, there are other choices and they are here, and, they will be just as important, if not, more important as we keep going along. But anyway, guys, I've been waffling along enough about this, I think, for tonight. And yeah, I don't really think there's much else to talk about from this show for the most part. There were some certainly solid matches and solid moments. And now we know when the Battle Royal for the #1 contendership is going to be next week and whatnot. And which is on the live TNA, by the way. And that, I believe that's a 20-man Battle Royal or whatnot. So again, we're going to get into that when that comes up and figure out, well, I'm assuming that they have to be, building that towards Slammiversary, surely. But then again, I've been wrong before. And it's like, dude, where's Steve Macklin? What's he doing? Where is he at, bro? And if he doesn't win this thing, and have that rematch with Santana that I really want to see, I'm going to be mad as hell. So that is one thing that I really hope that we do get to see as well. I don't even care if it's at Bound for Glory, but again, maybe, whatever. But still, I still want to at least see Macklin back and be in there, because it's like, you've got all these heels there, but it's like, what are you doing with them? You know what I mean? At least this will be like, okay, let's launch somebody and let's put somebody in contention. But you should have already been doing that. You should have been doing that weeks ago and months ago and whatnot. You shouldn't have been coming here and being like, oh shit, we haven't got any contenders for Santana. Oh shit, well, we better make a Battle Royal or something, or whatever. No, you should have already done that, dude. Again, but still. Hopefully this will launch somebody and we'll get somebody there. But we will wait to see, so hopefully it will all work out. And that's why, again, I'm always coming here to say, let's hope for the best. Let's hope that they make it good and make it, interesting and enjoyable. I want the best from this company. No matter the criticism or whatever else I have for them, I want them to do their best. I want people to see what the best of TNA is, not just, oh, this is shit, this is bad, blah, blah, blah. Same old shit, whatever. No, I want to be like, yes, there are some positive things. Yes, there is this. Yes, there is that, whatever. But we need to get there. We need to land the plane, so to speak, or we need people to be like, okay, this is where we're at. So, but yeah, anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this one and hope that you'll be all good until you join me again in another one.